welcome to today's video tutorial of Flopsy the Bunny from Likey's new Amitami line. I am so excited to make this with you, but before we get started, let me open up the kit and show you everything that is included so you can get familiar with your tools, and then we'll jump right into the tutorial. So this is everything you can expect to receive inside of your Flopsy the Bunny kit. Of course, first starting with the instructions, this is what we'll be going over step by step today. Also followed with the perfect amount of yarn to complete your project. This is a chenille yarn in the color Light Orchid, as well as its matching crochet hook. For this particular project, we are going to be using a 2.5mm crochet hook, and then we also have a very small amount of black yarn, and this we will use to embroider on Flopsy's nose, eyes, and eyebrows, which will be very cute. We have the perfect amount of stuffing included as well to stuff Flopsy, as well as a stitch marker we will use to keep track of our rounds, and a darning needle to weave in all of our ends and make our project look nice and neat. So with all of that out of the way, let's get right into the tutorial and making Flopsy the Bunny. So just a quick note about the instructions before we do begin. If you want to follow along with me while I am reading them off to you, they will be listed here for you, and if you're unsure what any of these abbreviations mean, there's a table of abbreviations right here where you can find all of the terms that we are going to be using today. Without further ado, let's get right into Flopsy. Alright, so to start Flopsy the Bunny, what we need to first and foremost do is make a slip knot and chain 3. So in order to create a slip knot, all you need to do is place out 2 fingers like this. You're going to take the yarn and drape it over those 2 fingers, clamp it into place with your thumb, then take that yarn and wrap it all the way around both your pointer and middle finger and create an X with it in the front. That is most important. And then you're going to turn your hand and grab your strand of yarn with your ring finger. Then go ahead and take your crochet hook, and you're going to go under this first strand here, grab the second strand and pull it through the first strand. While you're doing that, you can release your fingers from inside and pull it tight, and that will create a slip knot for you. So let's do that one more time. So again, we're holding out our 2 fingers, draping the yarn over our fingers, clamping it down in place with our thumb, wrapping the yarn all the way around, making sure we create that X over our finger, and grabbing it with the ring finger to hold it into place. Taking our hook, going under the first strand, grabbing the second strand with our hook. We have the hook side down so we can grab it easier, and then releasing our fingers from the middle to create a slip knot. Once you have the slip knot, we are ready for the next part of round 1, which is going to be chaining 3. So let's just chain 3 really quickly. Perfect. And after we chain 3, we need to work in the second chain from the hook. We're going to make 6 single crochet. So let's do that together really quickly. So from the hook, 1, 2, into the second chain, let's create our 6 single crochet. And in case you're unfamiliar with a single crochet, you're going to insert into that second chain. You're going to grab some yarn, pull it through. So you have 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through. So now we have 2 single crochet. Let's do that again. We're working into that same space every single time. Push the hook through the chain, yarn over, pull the yarn through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through. Now we have 3, and we're going to repeat that until we have 6 stitches total. So that was 4, 5, and 6. And now we are ready to begin round 2 of the pattern. Now for round 2, we will need our stitch marker. So I'm just going to put that there because once we work into that first stitch, we're going to mark it with the stitch marker so we know in future rounds where our round begins. So for round 2, it says increase in all the stitches all the way around, and then in parentheses it says 12 single crochets, which means we need to place 2 single crochets in every stitch we just made. So to do that, we need to find our first stitch, which is always the trickiest, but it is this first stitch right here, and we are going to insert our hook through the hole, and we are going to create a single crochet right there. After we place 1 single crochet in, I'm going to take my stitch marker and just mark that first stitch I just worked, so I know at the end of the round this will be the first stitch of round 3. Can add my hook in, and into that same space I just worked 1 single crochet, I'm going to work 1 more single crochet. Just like that. And then into the next stitch we are going to work 2 more single crochets. So that's 3 and 4, and then we have 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10. And then into this last stitch right before the stitch marker, we are going to work the final 2 stitches to have our stitch count now be 12. And this is a great way to check to make sure you have all the proper stitches per round. If when you get to the marker, you have a different number of stitches, you might have done something wrong in that row. So no problem, just pull back and redo the row. Sometimes it does take a try or two to do. So now you can really see our circle is coming together and we are ready for round 3, which round 3 is going to be single crochet into the next stitch and then increase into the next stitch. And we're going to do that 6 times in a row for a total of 18 stitches. So to do that, I'm going to remove my stitch marker, place that aside, and we are going to work that first stitch, just 1 single crochet in there instead of 2 like last time. Place my stitch marker back to mark the beginning of my row. So into this next stitch, I'm working 2 single crochet to create an increase. And next I'm doing 1 single crochet and an increase. And we're going to continue this all the way to the end of the round. Okay, I'm at my last 2 stitches of the round. So this is a single crochet 1, and then my next stitch is a single crochet increase. And so since we're ending on an increase, that shows us that we did that round correctly, and we should have 18 stitches in the round here. So we are ready for round 4. I'm going to remove my stitch marker again, and for round 4 we are going to work a single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then an increase. So this is very similar to how we did last round, except for we're going to have 1 extra single crochet between our increases. So our first stitch is 1 single crochet, and we can mark that with our stitch marker. And into the next stitch, we are also doing 1 single crochet. Then as the pattern indicates, we have our increase in the next stitch. So this will be 2 single crochet in this stitch, which means we have 4 single crochet right now total. And then into the next stitch, we are going to do 1 single crochet, into the next stitch, 1 single crochet, and into the stitch after that, 2 single crochet. You're going to complete this for the entire round, and this will bring your new stitch count to 24, so I will see you back when we get to our stitch marker again. All right, I'm at my last stitch, so I'm ending with an increase, and that will be the end of round 4. Round 5 is going to be very similar. We are just going to add another single crochet in between our increases. So this round calls for 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches and then an increase 6 times, which means we are going to have a new total of 30 stitches. So our first stitch again is 1 single crochet, and we're going to mark it with our stitch marker. Into the next stitch, 1 single crochet again, and into that third stitch, 1 single crochet again, and this is our first increase of the round into the next stitch. So we can just put our first increase here, and there we go. Now we have our first set of 3 single crochet and increase. So we're going to again repeat that all the way around our circle until we get back to the beginning, and I will see you back at the stitch marker for the next round. Okay, and here we are back to our stitch marker, and we are going to add 2 single crochet into that last stitch, which means we now have 30 single crochet in this round. You can really see our little circle and the head of Flopsy coming together. So for round 6, we are going to single crochet 1 in the next 4 stitches and then do an increase for our new total of 36 stitches. This is also going to be our last round of increases. So let's work that one together. Get some more yarn here. So into our first stitch, we are going to work 1 single crochet, and of course add our stitch marker back in to mark our spot. And then we are going to make another single crochet into the next stitch, another one into the third stitch, and then into the 4th stitch, 1 more single crochet, and then we can make our increase into the following stitch. So there we go, our first increase of this round, and then we will continue around the circle, working 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, increase, and we're going to continue this all the way to the end of the round. And the last stitch of the round before the stitch marker, work our last increase for a total of 36 stitches. And like I said, that's our last round of increasing for this particular part of Flopsy. So now with this circle, we are going to start working our rounds of no increases. So for round 7 through 16, which is 10 rounds total, we are going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch. So basically the same thing we were doing before, just without any increasing of the stitches. So into that first stitch, we are going to place 1 single crochet. Make sure you are marking your first stitch of every round, even when we're working these rounds with no increasing. It's actually extra important because you'll really forget which round you are on, and we're just going to work 1 single crochet into every single stitch for 10 rounds. It's really helpful at this point to keep a tally on either the pattern or maybe a scrap piece of paper, just so you don't lose count of your rows. Something that can happen to me often, so I'm going to be making tallies every time I complete a row, and after I work my 10 rounds, I will come back with you and we will begin decreasing the body of Flopsy and moving on to the next step. So I'm going to work these 10 rounds of 1 single crochet in each stitch, and I will see you back here when I have all my 10 rounds completed. Something I really quickly wanted to note and show you as you're working your 10 rounds of 36 single crochet is you are going to start getting this bowl shape effect. As you remember before, when we were working the increases, it was a very flat circle, and it will start to make a bowl, and that is just because we're basically building up the wall of the single crochet, and when they're all the same size and we're not doing increasing, you will start to get that. So that is the correct shape, so don't be worried if you start to see this happening. It's supposed to do that. And if you want to be trying to count your stitches as you're working these rounds to make sure your stitch count is still 36, it is a little bit more challenging to see with chenille yarn, but if you kind of put it to the side, you can slightly see the V's a little bit of where we were working, and you just want to count those, or you can count them as you're actually placing the stitches into the work. On the inside here, you can kind of see it might be a little bit easier to see and count on the inside as well, but I just wanted to note that really fast as I'm working. I figured I might as well show you that you will start to get a cute little bowl shape. That is just the body of Flopsy. So all is good so far, and I will see you back here in 5 more rounds. Okay, I am back and I have all 10 rounds worked of 36 single crochet, and we are ready to start decreasing the body and head of Flopsy. So for our next round, which is going to be round number 17, we are going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and instead of doing an increase like we were used to doing down here, we're actually going to do a decrease instead, and this is going to start making our little bowl here smaller. So let's do that together. First stitch is just going to be a regular single crochet as we were doing, and I'm going to put my stitch marker back, of course. And then we are working 1 single crochet in the next stitch, 2, 3, 4 single crochets, and into the next stitch we are going to do our first decrease. So to decrease, if you're unfamiliar, you're going to go through the stitch as normal, yarn over and pull that through, so you now have 2 loops on your hook, and where you would normally yarn over and pull through for a single crochet, we're going to take this into the next stitch. So into the next stitch we're going to enter as normal, and we're going to yarn over again, pulling through and pull up another loop. We now have 3 loops on our hook. Now we can yarn over again and pull through all of those stitches, and that made a decrease. So let's do that again. after our 4 single crochet, of course. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I also think our stitches become a little bit more legible the more you work the body of this project. In the beginning it's kind of hard, but now you can really start to see them. So let's do another decrease together. Insert our hook, yarn over, pull through and pull up a loop and into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up another loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. There's our decrease. So we're going to repeat this process all the way around, and I will meet you back here at the stitch marker again. Okay, I am back to my stitch marker and the 2 stitches before the stitch marker. So let's work our last decrease into that stitch there. And now we only have 30 stitches instead of 36. So for our next round, which is going to be round number 18, we are going to work 3 single crochet stitches and then 1 decrease. So remove our stitch marker and place 1 single crochet, put our stitch marker back, and into the next stitch 1 single crochet, and into the following stitch 1 single crochet, then into our next 2 stitches, our first decrease. Alright, and that's our first set of decreases for this round, and continue on. 1, 2, 3, and decrease. And we're going to continue this all the way to the end of the round. Okay, I'm at the end of round 18, right before the stitch marker. We have our 2 stitches left, which is good. It means we are on track. And our last decrease of round 18 is now completed. And we now have 24 stitches. So before we move on to round 19, I'm gonna just pull up my loop a little bit because we are gonna start stuffing Flopsy just a little. So I'm gonna grab my stuffing over here. And with the stuffing, I just like to pull it apart a little bit in the beginning just to fluff it up a little bit extra. And I'm just gonna stuff Flopsy just a little bit. We don't want to overstuff because then our stuffing will come through in our stitches, but just enough to get it started, because as this hole starts to get smaller, it's going to get more tricky to stuff our bunny. Okay, so I actually grabbed the perfect amount. How about that? That's plenty of stuffing for me at the moment, and we will continue to stuff Flopsy as we go. So as you can see, we're starting to get a really nice shape, which is so exciting, and we can move on to round 19. So round 19 is going to be 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then a decrease. So we're going to do that all the same as we've been doing. First stitch worked, place our stitch marker back. One, 2, and our decrease. One, 2, decrease, and I will meet you back at the end of round 19. We will only have 18 stitches after this round. Okay, we have 2 stitches left for this round, so we'll make our final decrease of the round, and we are getting really close to closing up Flopsy here. So I'm going to stuff just a little bit more since we have another round built up. Just a little, again, leaving plenty of room to work my stitches. And you can also start shaping the bunny a little bit too, so you get a cute little shape. You can also determine how firm or soft and squishy you want yours to be. I like mine a little bit more firm, so as we work a little more, I will start to stuff it a little bit more even. But let's work our next round, which is going to be round 20. We are going to do a single crochet and then a decrease right after. So let's start working that round. Our first one is just a regular single crochet, and place our stitch marker. Then we will work our decrease already. 2 stitches, single crochet into the next stitch, decrease into the next 2 stitches. I will meet you back at the stitch marker for the next round. Okay, last stitch of round 20. We'll work like this. And as you can see, our opening is starting to get a lot smaller very quickly. So again, after this round, I'm going to stuff even more, and I can really push it down there now that we have quite a small amount of rows left. Make sure, even if you want yours pretty firm, to not overstuff it and stuff it too much. You do want to leave a little bit of room there. So just make sure the head shape is good and everything's looking nice. And you can see our stitches are nice and tight, so we don't have any polyfill coming through, which is great. So we are ready to work round 21, which is going to be our last round, believe it or not, for this. So we'll remove our stitch marker and we are going to work our first stitch, which is just going to be a single crochet decrease. We are going to do no regular single crochet in this round. It's all decreasing, and then we'll only have 6 stitches left. So kind of hard once you get it stuffed a little bit more. You have to pull your work a little bit so you don't get any of that stuffing in there, but we'll just work our first decrease. So we have 1, and don't forget your stitch marker still, even though this is our last round. There we go, and then we will work our next one here. These ones you can pull a little bit tighter just to really close up that opening. There's our third decrease. There's our fourth decrease. Number 5, and these last 2 stitches available are going to be our 6th and final decrease of the round there. There we go, and now we just have this tiny little opening left here, so you can add even a little bit more stuffing if you'd like. However, I think my Flopsy is pretty well stuffed for me, so I'm going to leave it. So now the instructions say finish stuffing if you'd like, and then fasten off, leaving a tail long enough for sewing. Pull the remaining stitches together, secure, and weave in the yarn ends. So to fasten off, if you're unfamiliar, all you need to do is yarn over and pull through. So you basically just made a chain, and then we want to leave a long enough tail to sew this all in. So that's probably plenty of tail for me. You don't need too much. And from this loop, you're going to pull the yarn all the way through it like that. So we can remove our stitch marker now, finally, and we just need our darning needle because we are going to sew close our hole. So to do this, we're just going to thread our yarn through the darning needle there. And we're going to weave through our stitches to close this up nicely. So I like to go in through the front of the first stitch, and then I will take the needle and come out of the second stitch like that. So we'll pull it like that, and then into the third stitch from the front and out from the back of the fourth stitch. Be careful of your stuffing again. You don't want to get that all stuck up in your work. And then in through the next stitch, out the back of that stitch like that. And then you can give it a little bit of a tug, and that'll close it right up just like that. So see, I left way too much tail. You really don't need that much. And then we're just gonna secure that tail in. So I just like to weave it a couple times through the body. You can put this in pretty random spots. This is just gonna hide our tail. So let's just do a couple more just to make sure it's not going to come out at any point. Don't pull your yarn too much or you might change the shape of Flopsy's body a little bit. So this is going to be my last tail to weave in here, and then after I pull this all the way through, I can just go ahead and cut this right here at the end, and there we go. This is going to be the head and body of Flopsy. So we are ready to move on to the ears. You can just put your little body aside for now. We're not going to need it for a little while. And for round 1, we're going to need to start it very similar to how we started the head and body. We're going to make our slip knot again. So if you need a little refresher, remember to place it over your 2 fingers, clamping it down, wrap it around under the first strand, grab the second strand, and release those fingers for your slip knot. Perfect. And we're going to chain up 3 again. 1, 2, 3. Now we again need to work 6 single crochets into the second chain from the hook. So let's do that together as well. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now with our circle started, we are ready to work round 2 of the pattern. So for round 2, we're going to place 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then make an increase. We're going to do that 2 times to have 8 stitches total. So finding our first stitch here, going to just push our hook through there, yarn over and make 1 single crochet, and then we're going to take our stitch marker and place it in that stitch there so we know this is the first stitch of our round. Perfect. And then from there we're going to make 1 more single crochet in the next stitch, and into our following stitch, as we did with the body, we are going to make an increase. So 1 and 2. Perfect. Get a little more yarn here, and let's repeat that 1 more time. Just do 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, and then in that last stitch right before our stitch marker, again we are going to work our last increase to have 8 stitches total. Okay, perfect. And that is the end of round 2. So for round 3, we're going to work 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches and create an increase for 10 stitches total. So let's do that together. Into the first stitch is just 1 single crochet, and we'll remark it. All right, into the next stitch, we're also going to make 1 single crochet, and into that third stitch, 1 more single crochet. Then we'll make our increase into the following stitch. 1, 2 single crochet in that 1 stitch. Okay, and then we will just do that again. So we need 1 single crochet in the next stitch, 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and 1 more single crochet in the third stitch. And then in the last stitch right before the stitch marker, we need 2 single crochet for our increase. And now we will have 10 stitches total. And then for round 4, we're going to work 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches and then an increase 2 times. So we're going to have 12 stitches total. So 1 stitch marker, okay, into the next stitch, 1 single crochet for 2, 1 single crochet in the third stitch, and 1 single crochet in the fourth stitch, and then of course our increase single crochet, so 2 single crochet into that next stitch there, and we're going to continue this all the way to the end of the round. Okay, into our last stitch here, 2 single crochet, and that is going to be the end of round 4 and the end of our increase round. So what we're going to do for the next 8 rounds, which is going to be round 5 through 12, we are going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So each row will have 12 single crochets in it, and you are going to do that for 8 rows. I will meet you back here in 1 second, and then we will finish off the ear. So the ears are much faster than the body. The body is always the longest part. I will see you back here once I work my 8 rounds of 12 single crochet. Okay, I am back after my 8 rounds of 12 single crochet. That feels like it went so much faster, didn't it? After working the body, that's always my favorite thing about working the biggest part first. So for round 13, we are going to single crochet 1 in the next stitch and then do a decrease 4 times. So we're going to go back down to 8 single crochet. Now, don't worry about stuffing this because we are actually not stuffing the ears, so no need to try to push any stuffing into there. We're just going to leave them as is, and we're going to go down to 8 stitches. So there's our 1, place our stitch marker, and then we'll do our first decrease, which, if you remember, our decrease is into the first stitch, we're going to yarn over and pull through, and into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all of those. So there's our first decrease of the round. And then we have a single crochet next, and then another decrease we'll do here. Okay, so there's 2 decreases and single crochet and another decrease right here. Perfect. And then our last couple stitches here, we have 1 single crochet And into our last 2 stitches, we're going to work our last and final decrease of the round. So that is perfect, and we are right back to our stitch marker. So after that, we're going to flatten out the last round and work through both thicknesses, placing 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches, fasten off, leaving a tail for sewing. So we'll remove our stitch marker. We don't need that right now. And so what that means is we're just going to take our circle and we're going to flatten it like a sandwich basically. And we're going to work through both these front stitches and these stitches by my index finger back here. So we're going to push our hook all the way through that first set, and then again all the way through the second set directly behind it. Yarn over, pull up a loop like that, yarn over, pull through, 1 single crochet. And then we're going to do that again. So through that first set and directly into the set behind it, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through for 2. We have 2 sets left. So there we go again, making sure you're securing both the front and back, and into our last 2 stitches here. These ones are a little bit closer and easier to get through on that last stitch, and we're going to pull through and voila. So we just need to fasten off, which is just chaining 1 if you remember. And then we just need to cut a tail to attach it to the top of Flopsy's head. I'm going to pull that through, and there is our little ear all done. Super, super cute. So I'm going to put this one aside. I'm going to make 1 more ear, and then I'll meet you back here after both of our ears are made, and we will start working our arms next. Okay, we have both of Flopsy's ears completed now, and we can take them and put them aside with the body because we will sew that all together later. And now we can move on to the arms, which we will need to be making 2 of these as well, and I will make this first one with you. So for the arms, we need to start off the same way we have by making our slip knot here, and then chaining up 3 again. 1, 2, 3, just like that. And into the second chain from the hook, we're going to make 5 single crochet this time. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect, just like that. We have our little circle and we're ready for round 2. So the next round is actually round 2 through 8. We are going to do 7 rounds total of 1 single crochet in each stitch. So this is just 5 single crochet all the way around. So we're working a very tight, small little area, but just make sure you keep a little bit of a looser tension again, because you don't want to have too tight of a tension and then it's really difficult to work in these 5 stitches. So there's our first stitch, and we're going to place our stitch marker into that stitch still, even though we're working a small little section here. Okay, perfect. And then we're going to do 2, 3, 4, and 5. There's round 1. Remember to be tallying these as you go so you don't make too little or too many rounds. And we're going to do, this is technically round 3, but this is round 2 of the repeat. So add our stitch marker again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As you can see, you start to work this up, it really does start to get very small circumference there, so just be mindful of your stitching. I will meet you back here after all of the rounds, and we will finish off the first arm of Flopsy. Okay, so I just finished my 7 rounds. I'm going to fasten off by chaining 1 and cutting a tail for us to sew on later. So there is 1 arm. Also, don't worry about this part down here. We will sew that in at the end as well. So no problems there. Now go ahead and make 1 more arm and meet me back here because we are going to make the feet next. Okay, here are both of my arms for Flopsy, which I'm also going to put aside with the rest of my work. Let's move on to the feet. We need to make 2 of these, and then we are almost done. So we're starting off again with our slip knot as we have been, and again with a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. So hopefully you're really getting the hang of that now. And then into the second chain from the hook, we are again going to make 6 single crochet. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now that we have our circle, we are ready for round 2. Okay, so for round 2 for this, we are going to make an increase into every stitch. So we're going to take our stitch count from 6 to 12. So we'll insert into our first stitch and make an increase, which is just again 2 single crochets in the first stitch, making sure we mark our very first stitch, which I did 2 at the same time, so I'm going to mark 1 back. We want to mark our first stitch of the round, of course. Okay, so there we have 2, and we're going to continue this all the way to the end of the round. And into our last stitch here, 11, 12. Perfect. That is the end of round 2. And for round 3 and 4, we are going to make 1 single crochet in each stitch. So we're just going to keep our stitch count at 12 for this. So into that first stitch and place our stitch marker back in. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. All right, I'm going to do that for one more round and I will meet you back here in 1 second. Now we have done round 3 and 4 and we are ready to start round 5. And for round 5, we're going to do a single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then a single crochet decrease. So right now we have our bowl that looks like this. What I'm actually going to do is just push the center out and I'm going to flip it this way because I actually just prefer this side of my single crochets better. You can really use either side. It's personal preference, but for me, I actually like to work on the outside of my work here versus working inside. So whichever one you prefer, but I'm just going to push out my work like that. So now I'm working around this side and let's begin round 5. So first we need to do 1 single crochet and of course place our stitch marker in, and then we'll do 1 more single crochet and do our first decrease. Whoop, our tail got in the way there. Very good. And we're going to continue this all the way to the end of the round. Now we have 9 stitches in this round total. So for round 6, we are going to work 1 round of single crochet. So we're working 9 single crochet around. So 1 single crochet into the first stitch, put our stitch marker back, and 1 single crochet into all the following stitches. So last stitch before the marker. Now we have 9 single crochets in that round and we are ready for round 7, which is single crochet into the next stitch and then a single crochet decrease times 3. So I'm just going to pop the rest of my tail into my project. If you flipped yours, you can do the same. Otherwise, you don't need to worry about that, but I don't want him getting in the way of my work anymore. We also are not stuffing the feet, so don't worry about stuffing for this part either. I'm going to place 1 single crochet and I'm going to add my stitch marker again. Perfect. And then into the next stitch we are working a decrease. Into the next 2 stitches I should say, we'll work a decrease and single crochet 1, decrease. Perfect. Single crochet 1. And last 2 stitches, 1 final decrease. Perfect. So that is all for our foot. So we can fasten off our foot and leave a little tail for sewing it onto the body. So snip that. Go ahead and complete 1 more foot and I will meet you back here for the final thing we need to crochet, which is just the tail. So I'll see you when I have 1 more foot. Now we have both of our little feet finished. I will put those aside with the rest of everything that needs to be assembled. Okay, so now the only thing left to make is Flopsy's tail. So to start the tail, you guessed it, we're going to make our slip knot and chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and this time into the second chain from the hook we are going to make 8 single crochet. So let's do that really quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. And we are ready for round 2, which is our final round of the tail. And so our next and final round of the tail is going to be making 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So we're going to make 8 total. And I'm going to place 1 single crochet into my first stitch and place my stitch marker there. Okay, and then we'll just complete the last 7 stitches. So that's number 2, there's number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and last stitch, 8. We're also not going to stuff the tail, so we can go ahead and fasten off, just pulling the rest of our yarn through there, and I can remove our stitch marker. And we have now completed our little tail for Flopsy, so we can set that there actually, because we can put our hook away, our stitch marker away, and we are going to start assembling Flopsy. So I'm going to bring all of our pieces back into frame so we can start assembling our bunny. We will also be needing our small amount of black yarn at this time. So if you actually flip our instructions over, you can see there is an assembly guide on how to put the bunny together. So very straightforward, and that's what we'll be going over now. So it says for step 1, we are going to do the feet. So let me take everything and put it off to the side here. Bring the feet forward. Position the feet forming in a V formation between rounds 19 and 20 at the bottom of the body. Using tails, sew the feet onto the body. So let's go one at a time here. Rounds 19 and 20 were at the bottom here. I'm just going to put the foot on like this and make sure it looks cute from the front and how I want it, slightly angled like that V they mentioned. And then we will just start going through the foot and into the body, and I will just sew it in like that. So I like to just secure this a couple times. It doesn't need to be anything too much. Again, you don't want to pull it too tight to misshape the body too much, but you do want it to be nice and secure on there. So once you feel like you're happy with the foot, you can just weave in the tails like we did for the body. I'm actually going to do one more stitch over here. I feel like it needs just a little bit more security, so let's do that really quick. Okay, and then I'm happy with that. So I'm going to weave it through there and weave it one more time because I like it to be extra secure, and I can cut it right here. Like that. And there we have our first foot on. It looks kind of funny with just one, so let's do the other one really quickly. With the other foot, I'm going to turn Flopsy upside down again, and I'm going to position that one at a slight V angle like we did with the first one. Just make sure you check from the front that it looks cute, and that does. So I'm just going to sew that down as well. Make sure you're going through both the foot and the body on every single stitch, so it's nice and secure. Okay, that's perfect. So I'm just going to weave this in, and there we go. I can cut this. And now we have both feet on the body, looking super cute, coming together. So our next step is going to be the arms, and it says to take the arms, which are these two right here, and we are going to position them on either side of the body between rounds 8 and 9, using the tails to sew them into place. So first thing I want to do is sew in the other sides of the arms where the hands of the bunny will be. So like this area right here, where we're not technically sewing it to the body, but we do have this tail from when we were creating the hand. I just like to sew that in a couple times, just so that we don't have that long tail sticking out. After we do that, I like to put my last stitch through the center of the hand, so it actually comes out this side. And that just helps make it nice and secure, and then we can cut it. Make sure you're not cutting the side that we're going to weave on to the side of the body. So now it looks like this, which looks much better at the hand. So let me do the same thing for this one really quick. All right, so now I have my first arm onto my darning needle, and we need to find round 8 or 9. I mean, you can really position this wherever you want to. It's super customizable, but if you're wondering where round 8 and 9 is, what you can do is go to the top of your work and you see our little swirl. You can count out the rounds from there where you see these like definite little stitches, and those are our single crochet stitches. So this was round 1. Then we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you want to do it right between round 8 or 9. I'm just going to draw that over to the side and make sure the feet are still in the front. So about right here is where I want to place my arm. You can also position that with a stitch marker if you would like, but I just usually hold the place with my nail while I get the arm started. Before you start really sewing it on, you can double check it and make sure you're happy with where it is, and I'm definitely happy with that. So through the arm and the body, I'm just going to have it come out up here. And I just need to do this a couple of times just to secure it into place. Once I'm happy with how secure it is, I'm just going to do one final time through, have it come out almost the armpit area here, and then I'll just snip that. Perfect. And we will do the exact same thing for the other arm on this side. Now that both of our arms are on, we are ready to sew on the ears. So I have both of my little ears right here. Now feel free to also be referencing your photo from the pattern. That really helps also decide where you want it or how you want things to look. So for this one, it says that we are going to fold our ears in half, joining the edges by sewing them with 1 or 2 stitches and positioning them between rows 2 and 3, then sewing them in place, making sure they are aligned with both of the arms and feet. So what that means is after we thread our needle, we are just going to take our ear, fold it right here at the base because we want to create that cute little fold of the bunny ear there. And we'll just sew this a time or two to keep it nice and sturdy and steady. There we go. So our ear is folded, looks super cute, and then right on to the top of the head here between rounds 2 and 3, which was right around this area. You'll just have to kind of also decide what you think looks cute. You can do your bunny ears however you want. And we'll sew these in with a couple stitches as well. These might take a few more than your arms and legs to sew in because this ear is nice and big, so we'll want to make sure it's standing up nice and straight. It's a little bit heavier, so to get it to stand up, you might need to stitch it a couple more times, but do, again, just make sure you're being careful not to pull too tight and change the actual shape of your bunny. Okay, I've worked that enough times where I feel like it's going to stand up nice and straight, so I'm just going to take my scissors, cut it off there, and then of course we're going to repeat the same process for the other side. So I will come back in 1 second once I have the other ear sewn on, and then we'll just do the tail and his little face and we will be done. I now have both of my ears attached and they are looking so cute, standing up so adorable. So now we are going to put the little tail on. So we're going to flip our rabbit over like this and grab our little tail. So for our tail, it says position tail in the center back of the body between rows 16 and 18 and sew into place. So it might be easier for you to count from the back up for this since it's such a low row, but we have row 20 about right here, 19, 18, 17, 16. So right in this space is where we're gonna add our tail on. And again, you can kind of put this wherever you think looks cute or works best for you. But just make sure you're going through both the tail and the body when you are sewing it on, just like that. Again, just need to go through a couple times here. I'm going to actually work around in a circle just to mimic the tail so it's secure at all the points of the tail, making sure it's also as center as possible. Perfect. And we'll cut that. And there you go, congratulations, you assembled all the parts of your little bunny. So last thing to do is to embroider a face onto it, and we need to do the eyebrows and the nose as well. This is definitely a great time to have your reference, so I will pull mine in front of us while we work, and we will begin with the eyes. Using color A, embroider eyes on round 9, leaving 4 stitches between them. Make 3 or 4 stitches in the same place for each eye. So that is exactly what we will do. I'm actually going to cut just a little bit to get this started and make it easier for me to thread my needle through. Just like that, perfect. And then round 9, so counting from the top, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right around where we put the arms in here, if you remember. So we can just kind of start playing with it and see where we would like the eyes to be, but I'm going to start right here, and I'm just going to go down 1 stitch like that, and we will just do this 3 or 4 times like the pattern said. There's 1, there's 2. Don't pull these too tight either, otherwise your eyes will be a little bit beady. There's 3, and there is 4. So I think 4 is the perfect amount of stitches for me. So then I'm actually just going to take my darning needle and go over 4 stitches like the pattern said. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I actually want to come out over here on this side of my rabbit. All right, and we're going to repeat the process 3 to 4 times. So going up over just that 1 stitch, so it's the same size as our last eye. We have 1, 2, 3, and there is 4. Okay, so make sure you're happy with it, but I think that looks really good, and I'm just going to cut a small tail on the other side here like that. Then we'll just want to make sure we weave these tails into the body, and I like to push them out the other side just so it's really nice and secure there, and then I'll cut them both in 1 second. Let me do the same for this other side of the eye. Then we'll just snip both of these ends off like that, and they will disappear into the bunny if we just push it around a little bit like that. So there we go, we have our eyes on, and next we need to do the nose. So for the nose, we are of course going to take our black yarn again and thread our darning needle one more time here. We need a little bit more for this one, so I'm going to just make sure I have plenty of black yarn here, and we are going to embroider the nose between rounds 10 and 12, making sure the nose is centered between the eyes. So as you can see in the picture, we're almost going to make the shape of a Y for the nose area. So you can count from 10 to 12 if you want, but for me, I'm just going to look at where the rabbit's nose looks like it is, and it looks like the top of the nose starts about 1 row below the eyeballs. So that's kind of what I'm going to gauge mine off of, and I'm just going to go right into these stitches in between the eyes here like that, and I'm going to pull my yarn through, making sure I pull through plenty, and then I'm going to go 1 stitch below, and I'm going to push my yarn out through where we started here so I can create that first little shape of the Y like that. And then I'm going to come down and do the same thing and come out the stitch below like that. So there we go. Let me move that out of the way so you can see. Perfect. And then to complete the Y, we're just going to go through the center of that stitch there. And I'm going to push it all the way through so it comes out the other side. And there we go. We have our little nose, so we can cut this yarn tail back here off, and then we'll just need to weave in this front one as well. So let's do that really quick. All right, so I'm just going to push this through the back as we have been doing here. And there we go. Disappears right into the work. Cut this one off. Perfect. Now we just have the eyebrows left. I did also want to mention that it makes it a lot easier too to do the embroidery when you think about the single crochets as almost like a grid. I like to use them like that. So that's how I measure the length of my stitches and make sure everything is as even as possible. So for the eyebrows, we're going to, again, of course, use our black yarn, and it says to embroider the eyebrows 1 round above and 5 stitches away from each eye on round 6 and 7. So we will do just that. Okay, so for our eyebrow, we will go 1 stitch above, which is right here, and then we'll go 5 stitches over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so we will place our first stitch here, and it looks like it goes about 2 rows up. So here's 1 row, 2 row. Just going to go through there like that. I'm going to pull the black yarn almost all the way through, just leaving a little bit because we're going to do the other eyebrow without cutting off our yarn. So then we're going to insert back into that starting point, and we're actually going to bring our darning needle all the way across to the other side. So we need to count up here 1 row and 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we want to come out on about this side right here. As you can see, we have the needle coming out there, which is exactly what we want. And pull this all the way through. There is our eyebrow. Now we just need to complete that same thing over here. And so we have 1 row, 2 rows, and we'll just put our darning needle into the top of that second row stitch and go through that same spot that we just came out of before. And that'll be our other eyebrow there. So now we have 2 eyebrows. They look super cute, but these ends of course look funky. So let's get rid of those. Just gonna place my yarn needle through, pull this all the way through the back side, which will just secure our eyebrow again. Cut this off, and of course do the same thing on this other side here. Cut that last strand, and that was the last strand we had to cut. Congratulations, you have made your very own Flopsy. I hope you found this video very, very helpful. Make sure you give it a like before you leave today, and let me know in the comments which other of the Amitami collection characters you would like to make next. Flopsy is definitely one of my favorites, but I'm really so excited about all of them. So I will see you guys in another video, and until then, thank you for watching. Bye!